whoever doesn't adapt it or is not willing to become that management level of the AI is going to have a hard time. And pretty much any industry, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's service industries, whether it's knowledge based workers, I really think that this is such a transformative technology that it's going to impact each and every aspect of our lives by now.
Hi, my name is Dimitri Panici, and I'm a content creator, agency owner, and AI enthusiast. You're listening to the AI Agents Podcast, brought to you by JotForm, and featuring our very own CEO and founder, Ida Tank. This is the show where artificial intelligence meets innovation, productivity, and the tools shaping the future of work. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the AI Agents Podcast. In this episode, we have Yana Tornoe, the co-founder and COO of QuestionBase. How you doing today, Yana?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming on the show. I'm glad you're calling in from beautiful Miami. We were just chatting pre-call about how sunny as always. Yeah, it's 40 degrees today in Chicago, so I know I shouldn't be a jealous person, but sometimes I am. But outside of weather, let's talk a little bit about QuestionBase. Let's talk about you. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the world of AI and AI agents, and a little bit of a background on building the brilliant bot that is QuestionBase.
Thank you so much. Well, accidentally, absolutely accidentally. It was not intentional to get into AI. But as they say, like all paths connect once you look back in time. And me and my co-founder started building productivity software roughly 12 years ago. So it makes us sound really old. With our first company, we were building also tools in the same space. We had a product for task management. We had a product for organizing the work of teams, a more collaborative workspace with notes and communication need, essentially trying to create a vision that now, a decade later, Slack is achieving with all their new releases around canvases, huddles on the side of chat. And now you have the agents right there plugged in with access to a CRM and all these things. So it's really fun for me to see the evolution of the whole space after my whole career being here. And the first years of building QuestionBase were actually not dedicated to AI at all. It was dedicated to solving a very real problem that I was experiencing at a job that I had between the two companies.
Okay, nice. And I think it's fair to ask, when did you start seeing the indicators that there was going to be some adjustment to needing to get into AI, and what was that kind of like? Because I feel like every company who has now become an AI company that wasn't intending on being a agent, or an actual agent, has their own intriguing like markers they saw in the market.
So what we were doing with the first version of our companies, it was actually before ChatGPT released in January 2023. We were already for a year and a half working with company data and organizing it in a very manual way. And we were hearing from more and more builders in the space, not from customers, but like builders, founders that are close to us in our network, that they're using this new technology available through OpenAI, and you could just skip some of the steps in the manual workflow by using the AI for them. One of the things, the first use cases was, of course, AI powered search. And we spent like a good portion of a year explaining to our customers that now they don't need to write keyword by keyword. They can just express it in the whatever phrase it comes to their mind, and the AI will match it to results from their data and be able to surface answers. So just for context, I forgot to tell the listeners what is QuestionBase. QuestionBase, we organize company data with the use of AI to respond to employees' questions. That can be product questions, that could be operational questions, or sometimes it's even questions very practical from the sales team, somebody that is early in their career trying to leverage the practical experience of some of their colleagues that are more advanced. So it is a very good use case for artificial intelligence, which of course we didn't know when we started. We just knew that communication is a great source of transferring this tacit knowledge in an organization. And we were wondering why even big organizations or corporations have such a huge gap between what is stuck in people's head and what is out there as available documentation. And we saw that problem by being us as employees in these big organizations, being on the receiving end of that documentation, having the hard job to find that information. And we were wondering, why is everybody were asking in the chat, like, why is nobody actually using that knowledge that is out there? Why is that knowledge out of date? And this was really where we started our endeavor in that space. It was like, hey, how can we effectively sift through communicational data to extract knowledge and connect that knowledge back to people? And of course, that became an incredible use case for AI, way better than the manual workflow of a person that needs to remember to save every question they were asked or every answer they gave.
Yeah, it's such a natural tool, I guess. Like there's so many different things that we communicate now over Slack. Mainly, I guess is the tool that I use in a day-to-day basis. I know other teams use other products, whether it be, I guess, Teams or I feel like it's only Teams,
Absolutely.
honestly. Yeah, I feel like it's only Teams, but
Yeah,
Slack's
these
like
are
the
these are the two big ones, right?
yeah. Yeah, I feel like, but Slack is the main one that really does a good job of connecting with other tools, other capabilities. Tell me a little bit about how you, as a tool, obviously can reference the rest of Slack, right? But also integrate with other tools. I see on the site, like you have the ability to integrate with tools like Google Drive and Notion and Confluence. And these are a lot of different tools that people use consistently. So how does your product kind of factor in when you're asking a question, what to look at based off how the question is asked? How does it kind of work with more than one tool at once?
Great question, and it's really something that is being developed right now. Like, what are these guardrails you can create for AI agents to perform better? Because we've been in the wild, wild west for the past couple of years with AI. Everybody imagining that they can just plug in any set of data and magically AI is gonna return
What they want,
great
yeah.
great answers. Like, I think that the fact that the primary experience, that the first experience really that people had with that technology was on their personal use case, like leveraging the internet for their personal curiosity, created that expectation that you why wouldn't you be able to do the same for your work information. And it became like this huge gap between UX and expected UX and what is actually able to be achieved, um, due to a number of problems, but primarily due to the poor quality of enterprise data. Because if you are the models, large language models that are available for the general user, are of course trained on millions of data points for the same thing. Like, the fact checking can occur due to the just vast amount of validation you can run on these data sets. Whereas in an enterprise, like, really, when you hit a limitation of 12 duplicates of document version 2.3.7 of a document, how do you compare which one was the latest or which one was more accurate? And does it take into account the timestamp? Does it take into account who last edited and their role in the organization or expertise to that subject? So really, AI didn't have any of these built-in tools at that moment to make that judgment. So what it really did was it made really good, believable answers on enterprise data that misled the employees to take actions and maybe pass them on to their customers or maybe initiate an internal workflow. So when it comes to this enterprise data, we are starting to achieve a certain level of maturity, and this is what
Hmm.
we specialize with question base, because the initial versions that we released was really building on the momentum of the technology that was out there, basically connecting your Slack history, like um, your other tools of information, and just believing we were also oblivious as anybody else out there how accurate the answers will be. And and when you crunch 10 years of company history of conversations in Slack that nobody ever kept up to date, because of course the way chat is built, it's chronological conversation. There is no going back in time, maintaining accuracy up to date with new details. So it suddenly will generate, maybe of 10 years of history, will generate 4,000 FAQs that are applicable to the company. They contain knowledge, but now the problem is that that knowledge is of very poor quality, and the accuracy and trustability of that knowledge is very low. So even if you utilize AI to pass it on to people, it becomes very speedy, instant answers to something people shouldn't have uh, gotten as an answer at the first place. So in the past years, we were, and I think that even today, like, we are the ones that are solely focused on building on top of conversational data, building all these guardrails and systems that are going to increase the accuracy of information, and put in place a verification model, put in place guardrails per use case, per channel of communication, select specific data that would like that document responds in that channel and nothing else gets leaked into that channel, or these people are responsible from the organization to verify any information before it reaches the end user. So all these small tools that we have built to actually make sure that we utilize AI to pass on instant answer, but that answer is verified and accurate. It's been quite a big challenge. And to your question that you asked, like, how are we integrating all this data? Well, it's hard. Like, you need to actually fail first, um, before you can build a solution that can be robust enough for an enterprise. So maybe initially you start with integrating a full folder of a Google Drive, and the company thinks, oh, our all our SOPs are there, because people, let's be honest, they are also oblivious as what is in these 10 years old folders. People always are overestimating the quality of their data, so they're like, oh, let's just connect it and we're all set. But then you look at the automation rate, you look at the actual questions that are being asked within a channel, and you see a huge mismatch between what the agent has learned from that documentation and what are actually people asking about. And then the automation rate is down to maybe 10-20% in a channel, and people are like, oh, why is it not answering more? Because you don't have the documentation to cover the practical questions that people actually need answers to.
Yeah, no, that's very important, and just out of curiosity, I think it's another fair question follow up. What kind of industries are you seeing are struggling with this the most, and then what ones have you been able to kind of help get to the closer to the ideal of the I guess expectations of what people would like. And we'll talk a little bit more about expectations versus reality and where you think it's going to go for your product, other products in the future. But just to get it started, what companies do you feel like are really trying to adopt products like yourselves?
The industries where right now they're heavily dependent on manual work and on deploying humans to the problem.
Mm,
And these will be industries where we now work only with the internal part of the problem, not the customer facing questions, but like internally unblocking. And this is HRs, this is product managers, this is people in operations or training and enablement, who are stuck. Instead of producing high quality information and being that subject matter, they are stuck in repeating themselves in staying on top of the busy work. So for them, the case of connecting automatically people to information and having that team player that is an assistant, an AI assistant or AI agent, as we call them, is much of really high value. The industries are industries with high compliance, typically, where they really want they need to their first, let's say, on the market conditions right now that are being tough on some industries. They're being pushed to perform much more efficiently to achieve um, better return on investment, yet they are in a situation where they just cannot benefit from generative AI because it's highly risky for them. So these are companies like in education, in MedTech, in FinTech, companies where you need the AI assisted work in order to speed up processes, but you need the answers to be humanly verified. So there is awareness definitely in these highly regulated markets because there is a general push for automation from the organization and the bigger stakeholders in companies of this size. Yet they are of high need of guardrailing the performance of these agents.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And um, I'm not quite sure what your product does in this regard, but we've heard a lot about it recently, especially with integrations and stuff. Has your product kind of in the back end done any sort of integration with the MCP servers that are coming out for the respective products that you're integrating with? I'm curious because that's usually a common or it's been a recent trend that people
Yes,
have
it's
started
a
to
recent
implement.
trend. There is just a few weeks ago, Slack themselves introduced the MCPs. We've been
Yeah.
partner of Slack for the past 4 years, leveraging certain level of their certain level of their history of a team and being able to work with that channel data in order to organize it and derive the FAQs from that channel. And really, the NCP will allow us to search it more in real time, but it's not a priority of ours because of the way the system is built. That once you install the agent into a channel, you access this 90 days FAQ. Really, if a question wasn't asked repetitively within these 90 days, it's likely not gonna come up. Or next time that it comes up, you wouldn't be necessarily annoyed uh, to answer it from scratch. So we do already organize the information that comes from these 90 days. And I think that if we connect to the MCP, right now we're gonna have a hard time controlling and guardrailing the data compared to the current model that we deploy, which really is our competitive advantage because all of our generated FAQs from these first filtered by the AI are then humanly verified by experts on the team. And if you are doing instead real-time search in the history, then you're kind of skipping that verification layer. And really the tools that are out there right now, the OMs don't give you that verification tooling, which is also unclear for the industry. How are we gonna UX such an experience on vast sets of data?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And is it kind of difficult in what you're doing to, I'm sure with a lot of FAQs and kind of answers to questions, is it kind of difficult? And how does your product move around this uh, when answers to questions I feel like might change if say somebody like adjusts a process or like a I don't know, maybe even at a project level, if someone says it needs to go one way and then it changes, how does like the product account for that kind of adjustment that naturally happens when like it should be a
Things
static
change.
answer maybe but it changed? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So in that case, like there are, we have tools in place for duplicate checking. So if there is an issue, a new answer that contradicts what was already saved in the verified answers, you're issued a warning that makes you aware that you're creating a duplicate, and maybe it suggests you to edit the original answer. So in that way, it becomes a very smart way of doing something that is historically really broken with documentation, which is how do you keep it up to date. It goes really, especially in fast growing organizations or companies with a lot of new data getting integrated in them. It's a nightmare. Like, how do you keep that up to date? How do you even keep the overview
Yeah.
of what's out there and integrate the new knowledge into it? So in AI, it's incredible at that. It's incredible at detecting similar information, bringing it, and then it's an UX problem of who do you bring it to the attention to? How do you integrate the new answer into the old answer? Do you just erase it? Do you rewrite it and improve it? Like, all these tools are something that um, we use the human in the loop for, and really use the AI to be assistant, and not in any case replacement of the experts on the team, but really that enhancement that makes knowledge experts in big, large enterprises perform to the best of their ability and really work strategically.
Yeah, no, that's a good, that's interesting. And it's kind of hard to know this from an outside standpoint looking in. You made a comment in there about how the models are getting really good at understanding similar context, and how it adjusts there. So like, how have you noticed in the last calendar year even that it's managed to be more and more accurate at finding those similarities and making the adjustments? Because um, you know, I've seen a graph. It's kind of crazy. It showcases the quote IQ of like the
Yeah.
models over the last year. And reasoning only really came out. I'm trying to remember when O3 was released. It was probably in like April. So it's only been 7 months. So reasoning's only been out for a while. And obviously it could be at the smaller model level. How have you noticed, and how much more do you think it'll improve your product? Models improving, right? The reasoning
Oh,
and
it's
the, yeah,
significant.
yeah.
This is such it's a really good topic that you're bringing up, because it is significant change. And honestly, even until now, change from one version of a model to the next can make drastic differences, and not always for the best. Of course, if we look at the overall performance, AI has become much better, just like the out of the box solution without the enterprise data training on it has become much better at judging, reasoning what would be the right answer. So even if you feed it um, your Drive folders and your Notion notes and your Slack um, history of the channels, it starts taking much more of the metadata um, into account. It starts having better judgment and understanding the context of the question to match it to a better answer. So by all means, like, it's night and day difference just in this past year. The prompting that you need to do on the out of the box solution is much less because it is that much better. So if we are taking a very different stand to our competitors who are enterprise AI search, essentially tapping on top of all your data sources to generate an answer. For them, it's even bigger game, because before it's creating some mambo jumbo answer, now it's creating a very believable answer. And as accuracy of the data improves, then you're gonna, with the improvements of the LLMs, you're actually getting closer to the right answer. But what we figure out within our industry and working with really sensitive data for enterprises is like, you cannot give an answer, believable, good answer. Like, there is only one right answer. And that's the vast difference when you're working with consumer LMs in ChatGPT. And there are many ways of, hey, like, I really want to lose these 5 pounds, like how to go about it. There are billions of ways to go about it. But in most organizations, when you ask a particular question, am I allowed to issue this refund for that tier customer? There is just one right answer, and that's it. And connecting people to that one right answer still requires that layer of verification. And for us, the models make a difference in a very easy to experience way, because we do still generate the AI generated answer across your tools. These are not answers we can verify easily or um, pass on through experts before we pass them on to the end user. And in this case, from one model to another, it's gonna give a answer that is very vague. For example, it's gonna give a statement that is vaguely answering around the topic, but not deterministically. And then you see that, oh, okay, like some of the system prompts were changed in that model that led it to be less confident in its way of performing. And then you have to prompt it in your own way to make it either stick to the instructions, like for example in our case, like for some of the high compliance customers, if they already have documentation that they are required to every word be citated exactly as it is. So then we have our AI on top of it. It doesn't it cannot summarize the answer that's in the document, right? That's just not an option, because there are so many nuances to the language that it might get wrong, that somebody might quote towards a customer or a partner, and the company will be liable. So then we need to prompt our uh, model to be sticking completely to just quoting word by word what is in the document. So there are changes like that that we vividly experience even to date. Overall, the models are way better, and I believe that through your conversations with competitors who do purely enterprise search across data, they are definitely experiencing vast changes.
And what do you think, like, as a final, I guess, ultimate look of what the product would user experience that would be like? You said there's a difference between previously, now you see like a big improvement based on the models. What would be the main thing still that the models could help improve so you can more reach the absolute perfect outcome, I guess, in the next, let's
This
say,
is
yeah, couple year or so. Yeah.
the more we're bringing, if you just think about where we were a year ago and like displaying the reasoning of the agents, like
Mm,
that's a huge visibility thing. For just seeing, like, I'm displaying for each and every question that the agent gave, where did it search, which documentation, maybe even start putting check marks, like did it comply with its guardrails, like I have for that channel guardrails to only look into these documents, did it comply with them? So make it put these various tools for the agents to um, double check on themselves, to essentially be managers of themselves, to make
hmm
sure that they're passing on accurate information. A little bit like when you're having the research agents and they research and then at some moment they issue kind of a summary, but then they are like, oh, wait a second, I think I missed this source, let me go back and integrate it. So kind of having that loop of them verifying their process of going about answering. First step is, of course, displaying that reasoning. Second step will be adding humans in the loop in a very natural and user experience nailed way, where it's gonna shift essentially the role of experts on the team from being the one that provide assistance, being the one that provide knowledge to the agents that provide assistance. And we can see that shift in the roles very vividly, because once a company comes to us and let's say they have the budget, they have the problem, but they don't have a clear person to take charge of the agent, and they are imagining like plug and play. Oh, I just plug my sources. Yeah, we have the documentation in Drive and it's not a problem. Let's just integrate it. Let's do the ingestion cost and whatever. And it's going to answer employees. Then you know that that pilot is not going to work. Like they're not going to get the success they want, because AI, as of now, to work on enterprise level, you need to have that feedback loop where you monitor, as I was telling you, like, okay, it escalated these questions to a human because he didn't know the answer. Why didn't it know it? Now go and inspect. Do we not have that knowledge in the organization, or does the agent not have access to it? Or, okay, that's third category. This is completely new knowledge. What do we do with it? Is it worthy to be integrated into the knowledge base, or should we just dismiss it? So there are so many of these small components where actually humans need to interfere with the performance of the agent to really empower it to be able to take over the bigger task of responding these more complex organizational questions.
Yeah, and what kind of level of comfortability do you feel like companies are having with because what the interesting thing is, I feel like especially at an enterprise level, they want to make sure of the verifiability and the accuracy and all that kind of stuff of answers, and the human in the loop is really important for companies right now. It feels like it's a buzzword that is being used commonly. What kind of level of comfortability do you feel like people have trust wise with, you know, the answers that they're getting, and how would you say, just to further ask more about your own company, what you think makes yours different, whether it's in regards to allowing for that human in the loop or having better reliability than what you've seen from other competitors?
Thank you. These are big questions for a topic that is evolving. Like, as we are
Yeah.
building, as more builders are also, like, through your invitation today on the podcast, sharing their knowledge, I think
Yeah.
everybody is maturing. Like, we are at the forefront as something that wasn't available to any of us before. So we are trying
Yeah.
to all figure it out and chip in ideas with each other. Um, but really, there is definitely a mismatch right now, or maturity between what builders know as best process, as what would take to get a company to success and successful deployment of an agent, let's say just an answer agent like our use case, to what the company expects. Why? Because first of all, they already have the hires are doing the job, whether that's responding manually, or they are documenting things manually, or they are they're not even doing these things. Maybe they have a completely different job, and this is kind of like their second, third, fourth priority in their on top of their work responsibilities. And one of the examples is like documentation. Well, documentation, even as of right now, hiring for a role of knowledge manager, product manager, requires documentation that is built for humans. It still takes on the old school assumption of human reading it. And I push back, and I've had recent meetings with some competitors of ours, just as sharing, like, sharing ideas, sharing knowledge very openly. People are, as I said, in that industry, we're all trying to figure out how things should work, and there is definitely not just one way. I'm pitching here on the podcast my way, because this is what we've experienced and gotten to a solution. But there are many other ways, and I challenge, for example, the solutions where there is knowledge base connected to an answer agent, because the knowledge base, and you're selling that package to an enterprise and say, hey, like, here is how you're gonna write. And by now I'm like, why write it? This, who writes that documentation? Like, why write it? Who should write it? Nobody did it before when this was the only way to document things. And why even write it? Who's going to read it? Because we have, on the reading side, on the consumption of data side, we're much more advanced in our agentic capabilities. So connecting people to information through a simple answer is much more evolved than the writing capabilities. So then it becomes like, oh, even if you write it, it's not like I'll ever read it. I'll just ask my assistant for the portion of the information that I need. So it becomes an interesting space to navigate, especially as the maturity of the builders and clients is not at the same level. So you have to start by understanding the actual state of things in their organization, and maybe their expectations are up here of what AI is going to do for them and the automation rates they're going to achieve out of the box. And you have to kind of bring them down and then help them actually align the expectation that, hey, you need to have somebody on your team that's going to have the role of managing that agent. If you don't have that and you don't hire for that role, you're going to have a hard time getting success out of this automation. And there are all these things where essentially everything needs to be reworked. The way of writing, the way of accessing information, the hires and talents on the team, all these are very intertwined experiences in an organization that are right now getting drastically and radically changed through AI. And you need to build these glue solutions, tape them together based on what the way people work right now. But it's a real challenge, and in our experience it is a real challenge. It's a real challenge to talk to a knowledge manager that praises themselves of writing amazing articles in Confluence and confront them with the reality that nobody ever reads them. And you just have to tell them, okay, let's go on the views, let's go and open this article that you wrote a week ago, you promoted it in Slack, let's open and see how many people have viewed it, and see the remorse on their face when they see
Realize,
very
yeah.
they realize nobody read it. And then talk about that, because there is a certain pride in creating good work. It's just really hard to confront people that that work no longer needs to take the same shape and form. And for them to actually excel at this new reality, they need to work through this middle management layer of an agent.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I really appreciate you being candid there, because I do think it's pretty true. Like, there's a lot of documents people write, nobody reads them, right?
Yeah.
I think the larger you get organizationally, the more people are trying to get organized. I think at a smaller scale, SOPs maybe are more well like followed and upkept, and then you get larger and maybe they're even upkept better, but them being followed is kind of followed or even read in certain instances is smaller. But no, I think that's a very good
And
point.
I
And
really want to add something here and interrupt you, because like it's a lot on my mind, this aspect of enterprise knowledge, where who are we creating this for right now? I was attending Dreamforce last week through our partnership with Slack and Salesforce, and it was a very insightful conference. A lot of amazing content on the topic of the agentic future. And one of the things that was used as an example was how now you can utilize this feature in Slack to create these really well documented procedures right there in the context of communication. And it was demonstrated how you can chat with the assistant right there in Slack to create that asset. And what you and me are doing right now, we are asset generating. I mean, it's just a conversation, but from conversation to asset generation in the age of AI, it's um, very little, very little leap,
yeah,
very small one. So you actually can create like, okay, that's a conversational data, but I can take the transcription of it. Um, I can take it into a report. I can write a paper, white paper on knowledge management in enterprise. I can write use cases. I can do it per industry. It's all about my fantasy about the prompt to generate the asset I want. So as we are exploding in the amount of conversational knowledge, whether it's through conversation in a written form or in a spoken form, we are able to then create these assets really easily. Yet again, who's gonna read them? So even in the in the demo of an agent based on a few different conversations with the person, generating this beautiful canvas with details on a deal, recent metrics, taking into account the transcription to kind of track the performance of the deal or how it moves and so on. It's again like that's a very beautiful asset, definitely very useful, but for whom? For whom are you creating that asset? Do you think a human will go and read that asset? Like, how would we gonna consume that content? And really, is documents in the middle a necessary step? Because if we have conversation, from conversation to an asset, and from asset to a conversation, this is how I'm going to consume it. Why create the asset? Why isn't it from conversation to a conversation, um, with some guardrails in between that can create like this verification layer and so on? So that's a lot of the things I'm pondering on, and I really don't have the right answer. I'm just seeing how the industry is moving. It's trying to take into account the fact that people have documents, their whole businesses, in consultancy, KPMG, and a lot of the big firms that are purely their whole business is asset generation. And that's what they're selling, the consultancy that leads to an asset. And how are they going to work in the future? How are they going to perform in an agentic future where the asset is maybe an unnecessary step in the workflow?
Yeah, yeah, and kind of to speak to the industry in general, more kind of top of mind questions people have, probably about what we think is going to be impacted. You know, it's more conjecture than anything, but obviously everyone wants to know. You just mentioned about how some people are going to have to get comfortable with the AI agents becoming the kind of middle management to what they're doing. And what would you say in general your thoughts are on the impact of what the job market is going to do with the advantation of or the advances in AI and the adoption of AI agents?
You know, I'm a technology optimist and humanity pessimist at days, because I see the vast gap it leaves between what people right now are skilled for and what the technology can do for us. Um, as we are all seeing the recent reports, the problem is no longer technology. Pretty much we have surpassed any advancement of the technological level, but what holds us back to utilize it and materialize it into ROI, for whether it's on a company or country level, is the adoption. And it's that gap between how humans understand and deploy that technology to benefit them. And unfortunately, I do think that a lot of the current jobs in big enterprises are just not going to be there. I don't actually believe that there needs to be such big enterprises. I think we're going to see a dissolution in organizations, and we're going to see smaller, much more agile companies that are very knowledge specific, expert specific, and performing in managing these agents. And whoever doesn't adapt it or is not willing to become that management level of the AI, is going to have a hard time in is going to have a hard time. And pretty much any industry, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's service industries, whether it's knowledge based workers, I really think that this is such a transformative technology that is gonna impact each and every aspect of our lives by now, and it's gonna happen really, really quickly. And it can't be compared to anything we have experienced before, and the impact will be so radical, so radical. Within a few years, we're gonna have drastic change in the society just due to the nature of that technology getting loose in it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a fair comment. And honestly, most comments people make about this, I'm open to hearing, because I just kind of want to hear what the industry is saying, because I don't think any of us are going to be able to predict it too well. It's like, I'm an optimist too. I think it's going to cause a lot of agile teams. I think you're going to be a lot more businesses, probably a lot less huge businesses, a lot more small businesses and opportunities there. So I am an optimist about it. And being the optimist, kind of to close the show out, I am curious on a personal and a professional level, obviously question base aside, what are your favorite AI tools that you're using right now, and what do you use them for? That's maybe
Oh,
one of each.
I just love AI. I recently started using a tool called Gamma AI, which produces these assets. Because let's be honest, like we are in the transition period where there are still an evaluation for somebody's work or performance. So it's really easy way of me taking a transcription. I can go to the coffee house and on the way just voice record my ideas about an implementation on a client and how we should go about it, what are the complexities we are facing, and how to navigate them. And then I'm just going to inject that transcription into Gamma AI and say, hey, style it up within our brand. We have already created like a custom branding we need, and create like a 10 page really quickly to read PDF. And it will do it for me. And it will be mostly on point, like with minimal editing. I would have the asset within this 20-30 minute walk. And that is a tool that I'm super excited about, because as a founder that is uh, jack of all trades, master of none, I've always had that barrier of expressing my ideas to the level that my co-founders could. So one of my co-founders is a designer. He could always visualize the concept that he has and kind of bring everybody on board, get this buy-in, because it becomes like immediately like very visual, very real concept. And my other co-founder, he's technical, so he could always build a prototype, click here, click there, experience it, see my idea in action. And I was always that marketing background founder that might have a good idea, but like I'm sitting drawing post-it notes on a whiteboard and whatnot, and people are like, oh, half asleep there. I can now do what my co-founder did. I can build a lovable prototype in the span of this half an hour. I can visualize it into a landing page, report, you name it, with design tools. I use Figma a lot as well. I love Figma. I felt like this was my first big enablement from being visual thinker to but not designer, to being able to visually express my ideas. But now AI plus Figma is like, wow, like that is unbelievable. So so it's an incredible freedom of people. I wrote a post about it uh, even 2 years ago. I think it was. I called it the $1 billion next knowledge workers who are illiterate, because I believe that good ideas are not limited to your level of education, access to resources, and the most impactful ideas to change people's lives are actually grounded in people who experience the problems that our societies have. And if you can now give them voice enabled assistant to just converse with, and you tap into these billion people's ideas who are don't maybe are not even literate, as I said, like maybe they don't even have the means to communicate their problems and ideas for solutions in any other way, but they can voice record it. And from that, to turn it into an asset, turn it into a, something that is out there and adding impact, is getting shorter and shorter. We're gonna get there where every single person is gonna have in their pocket that tool to improve their local community and solve problems. And how incredible is that? Like, how incredible.
Very, very. I think it's incredible what opportunities we have. I mean, like even yesterday, or not yesterday, sorry, 2 days ago, like we came out now with an agentic browser, right? With
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw with ChatGPT's, I forget the name of it. It's called
I for,
Atlas. There we go. Atlas.
Atlas.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah, there we go.
Atlas.
So I think, just to close things out, I'll say appreciate the passion, agree with you completely. Those are some great things that you just mentioned. And last question I have for you is where can people go to check you guys out?
QuestionBase.com. We do have AI agents hard at work maintaining the website, doing SEO articles, making improvements. So there's a lot of good content on a recurring basis. People can go and check it. And for more personal touch, they can always reach out to me with any questions on LinkedIn/Yana Tornoe.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Yana. I really appreciate your time. Everyone, make sure to go to QuestionBase.com. That's QuestionBase.com to check out the great tool that we just covered in today's episode. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.